What's up, everybody? Brett here. It's Friday, so you know what that means. It's time for some Battle Brothers news updates. It's Devblog 143, Nomads. So actually, guys, I wasn't even sure whether or not we'd be getting any news after last week when they finally dropped the release date of August 13th. But no, there's still apparently more stuff to go over that we haven't seen yet. And I'm excited because I went ahead and scrolled down and I saw that there's quite a bit of substance here. So let's go over it together. It says, with the Blazing Deserts DLC releasing on August 13th, we've now entered the final leg of development. We're currently ironing out all the bugs and balancing issues, and we'll be able to show you actual gameplay in motion before release. For now, let's take a look at a new human faction that we only mentioned in passing so far. Read on. Alright, Nomads, what's up? A little bit of cool art here. The southern deserts are dominated by mighty city-states that impose their will on the surrounding lands. Outside their gates lies barren wasteland that is home to another people called the Nomads. They are a proud and free people that reject the strict and sometimes oppressive city-state laws, their harsh criminal system, and their corruption. But by doing so, they also reject the many achievements of the city-states, which, for all their flaws, are also a place where knowledge and science have displaced superstition, where there is stability and order, and where there is food and water aplenty. So I wasn't quite sure what this would mean. Definitely should keep reading before I start speculating. Nomads travel the barren deserts from one source of water to the next, hunting and scavenging and living the freedom that they choose. Faced with surviving in this harsh environment, many nomads turn to banditry. It's not all of them, of course, but as a mercenary in this world, it's who you'll be dealing with most of the time. Nomads have a roster of their own, roughly similar to that of northern brigands, but with their own equipment and a unique skill. So the way they were making them sound right here is that they're like an alternative to the city-states as far as like a city that you could go and visit. Like maybe there'd be, I mean, this is kind of a cool idea. Whether or not this is being implemented, I don't think so. But like a mobile city, like they're traveling people. Like you'll just see like this group of tents just like moving across the map in the desert areas, where if you need a resupply, they have it, but they're not gonna have like the alchemists. They're not gonna have certain other shops and things, but what they might have would be maybe like a taxidermist or maybe, other, the bare minimum of supply. So that was kind of what I was envisioning when they started. But now I'm thinking that they're just an enemy. Let's see if they clarify. Home in the desert and experience in desert warfare, nomads use the environment to their advantage, quite literally, in that they may throw sand in the faces of their opponents. Pocket sand. Gotta love King of the Hill. Inflicting the new distracted status effect. A distracted target will inflict less damage and have less initiative for a single turn. Interesting. So they added a status effect just for having sand thrown in your face. I'm wondering if they're going to implement it in any other instance. Is there another way to apply distracted to enemies? Interesting. So for me, it's like, so they've got weapons, and if there's ever a turn where instead of using their weapon, they throw sand in my face, am I happy about that? We'll have to see just how serious the debuff is, and how, like, is it ranged? Can they do it from, like, 2 tiles away? They throw pocket sand. Pocket sand. I'm going to call it pocket sand probably forever. Then they scoot forward and start attacking. If that's the case, then that could be pretty good. It's kind of like having a throwing weapon. Alright, let's take a look at them here. They've got good examples of them in their gear. Looks like mostly a lot of tier 1 and tier 2 type stuff. Nomad cutthroats and nomad outlaws are roughly equivalent to brigand thugs and brigand raiders. Yeah, basically. They tend to have less armor than their northern cousins in crime, but are more evasive. And their cultural pride affords them a slightly higher resolve, and thus makes them slightly harder to break. Okay. Well, when you play on harder difficulties as well, you find that even raiders and stuff just don't break until the last man. So these guys will probably be something like unbreakable if you're playing on like veteran difficulty. Which can be annoying a little bit because it feels unrealistic sometimes. Wearing traditional nomad armor fashioned from leather and hemp, they're armed with commonly available southern weapons like saifs, scimitars, and spears. But they also make use of whips in battle and use the nomad mace not found elsewhere. So I guess if you want to farm the nomad mace, you got to do it with them. cool to see more enemies use the whip. It's a weapon that I've played around with a little bit, but never really could make work as well as I wanted to. You gotta have, for me, you've got to have quick hands, and you know you're gonna use the whip a little bit on some enemies to disarm them. I think it's probably the best use. What is the best? I think okay. Well, I was trying to remember, like, is there a time where I used the whip like amazingly? And I think there was. I think in the Ratchetgeist boss battle, I whipped the Ratchetgeist. Is that something I've done before? I'm trying to remember. I feel like there was one time where I used the whip and it was just like insane. I was killing geists because you like one-shot them from range. Anyway, guys, cool to see diverse weapons being used against you. Yeah, it looks like they probably won't be the type of characters you want to farm for armor, but you probably won't have a choice in the early game. You'll just be dying to get a hold of these like kind of cloth mail hybrid armors that they're using. This looks like a decent helmet. These helmets look like they're probably crappy, but you know, if you're starting in the south, they'll be probably what you're trying to scrape together a couple of these. You're trying to get some of these cloth armors. I'm very curious. What I'm thinking about right now is like my armor tiers. Like, I know exactly what I'm shooting for whenever I'm in the north and I'm trying to grind for armor. You know I need a certain amount of armor value before I switch from, you know, trying to stalk thugs to trying to fight raiders. Like, I know like where I need to be. I need to be at like 80 armor and like, you know, maybe 45 on my helmet, or else I won't even try and fight raiders because I'm just going to start losing brothers. I'm curious where these armors and helmets fall into that and how that will change my early game. Alright, slingers and archers. Nomad slingers and nomad archers are roughly equivalent to brigand poachers and brigand marksmen. Slingers are armed with nomad slings, a different variant of the regular staff sling, while archers use the composite bow. This bow has lower range, but performs better against armor, putting it in between regular bows and crossbows on the spectrum. I'm excited to see how those function. With the bow mastery perk, you can probably make it so that they function more like a heavier armor piercing regular bow, but you won't have the extreme range of something like a war bow in the late game. And I'm also curious to see how the staff sling. I'm trying to remember what the difference is between the staff sling of the south versus the sling that we've been using. I don't remember what the variant is, or if it's just a slightly better version of the sling. I'm having trouble recalling. I have to scroll way down the dev blogs to go and find that info. But the composite bows, I'm excited to see. I feel like they're going to be a terror to fight against. And then lastly here we have the leaders and specialists. So larger congregations of nomads are led by a nomad leader, roughly equivalent to a brigand leader, and may also be supported by higher tier specialists. The Desert Stalker, ooh, okay, these are champions I'm seeing. The Desert Stalker is a master of using bows and killing from afar. See that? The Nomad Executioner is a heavily armed and armored individual who likes to solve disputes by slugging it out with two-handed weapons. Big sack right here. And the Desert Devil is a blade dancer of sorts, a whirlwind on the battlefield wielding a shamshir of a sword or a sword lance. He's not quite as skilled in a duel as a sword master, but makes up for this fact by being considerably more agile and less vulnerable to getting peppered with arrows. Naturally, all of these characters may also appear as champions with named gear if you own the Warriors of the North DLC. So I have to imagine that this is like a named bow. Maybe this is a named sword lance, and this guy is definitely wearing a named set of armor. So similar to the Master Archer, the Sword Master, and then like the almost like a Hedge Knight type character. So they'll be pretty damn tough to take down. But I love more champions in the game. I've said this before. Champions don't spawn, in my opinion, at the correct rate. You want them to be rare, but there should be options before, you know, day 100 for me to try and take down a champion. And in our long-running, man, my brain, guys, it's early in the morning. Our long-running series that we did on all of the different, campaign starts that we tried, we didn't find a single champ. I mean, we played collectively probably about 1,000 days, barely got any renowned loot, and didn't face a single champion. Which maybe they're set to proc in just the late game, but to me that's a bit of a mistake. And I feel like I don't know if the numbers got tweaked in the last DLC, but it felt like, man, I just haven't been finding anything whenever I play. But guys, that's it. It's the Nomads, Devblog 143. Cool to get a look at our upcoming enemy and to see what we'll be facing probably the majority of the time. I'm still not sure exactly which company origin that I'm going to be starting with. If you guys have your own opinions or something that you would like to see, I'm down for whatever. The few people that I've seen lead their suggestions have been talking about the Gladiator start, which I'd be stoked to do that. I think thematically and like story wise, it probably has the best. It has the most juice to squeeze out of it. You know what I mean? But it also limits I think it limits the number of brothers that we can have in a party, which then kind of limits the number of brothers we can name after people and stuff like that, and kind of forces you. Meanwhile, it'll have like the coolest story perhaps, but it may also have the most limiting story, is what I'm worried about. So, it says we have 3 company origins to choose from. Feel free to leave a comment letting me know which one you'd be the most interested in. But that's it for me today, guys. I'm Brett. Channel's Goodtalk Gaming. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. I appreciate you guys. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Later, y'all.